Hey guys, I know it's been a long time since I've done a book club, like a year, but I've been reading, and I think I wanted to start the year off, as most people do, with the book thing, is to go over books that I want to read in 2018. I might do another video of the books that I read in 2017, maybe, probably, I don't know. Um, but I guess I'll just jump right into it. So the past couple years I've been reading a lot more um, in general. For a long time, when I was a teen, I didn't read a lot. I think that was due to the fact that not a lot of books um, are written for teens, for teen men, for males. You know what I mean. It's early, and I'm still drinking my coffee. Anyway, not a lot of stuff is written for guys when you're a teenager. So there's not a lot of stuff that I wanted to read. But anyway, most recently, I've been reading a lot of literary fiction. A couple years ago, I was reading more fantasy, sci-fi stuff, but now I've graduated to reading more literary stuff. In 2016, 2017, I read a lot of Dostoevsky. Um, and I guess that can lead into the first book that I want to tackle this year. I've been wanting to read this for a few years now. In high school, it always seemed like something that was really daunting, and it is really daunting because I started reading it. But it's Tolstoy's War and Peace. Now, this hunkin' thing is over 1,200 pages, and it's, a thick book. But the reason it's been daunting to me is one, its size. And a long time ago, everyone always talked about how War and Peace was such a hard book to read because it's written more like a historical text and not a novel. And people, I've read introductions and reviews and stuff saying that it's like the first novel of this type, written in this kind of way. But the big draw for me to want to read it is because of its historical context and the stuff that I'm writing, the long form stuff, is kind of alt history. I want to have it make it seem real with the type of things that people are dealing with. And I figured that reading War and Peace would be a good stepping stone. The reason it's daunting now is because about 20, is it 20%, 20%, 5%, some sort of percentage. It's a low percentage, but still, of a 1,200 page book, it's a lot. A lot of the book is in French because it was originally written in Russian and French, and sometimes the English translations don't translate all of the French. They leave it and then just translate it in footnotes. And that's what this version did. It leaves the French text in French and then translates it in footnotes at the bottom. And so the way it reads, like the very first paragraph of the book is a letter written in French. I don't remember French. I took 2 years of it in high school. That was 10 years ago. I don't remember any of that. And even if I did, I wasn't high level enough to know enough French to decipher the type of things that they talk about in a letter. It's the stuff that I learned was very beginner conversational French, like my name is, where's the bathroom, that stupid shit like that. But so I couldn't read the first paragraph because it's a footnote. So I'd read the footnote, I have to find my place, read a little more, and then jump back down because it like the French is interspersed in between the English. Like the characters will talk in French and then Russian, which is translated into English, and then back and forth in the same sentence. So, French text, footnote, hop back up, hop back down. So that's going to be really hard to do over and over and over again for that. But Content-wise, I don't think the story will be daunting. I don't think it'll be boring for me. I've read a lot of um, Russian lit recently, so I think that that won't be a problem because I really like the human nature and condition type writing that a lot of Russian lit from that period is, which Dostoevsky is. So I think that I will enjoy it once I can get past the hula hoop of reading up and down, up and down, up and down. So hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. The next book that I have, and I bought both of these at the same time, is Waking Up by Sam Harris. He, if you don't know who Sam Harris is, because everyone knows who Tolstoy is, Sam Harris is a neuroscientist who advocates science literacy, and he's a very prominent new atheist. That was more like a late 2000s, early 2010s like thing. I don't really think he's perceived as that anymore, but he's a guy who likes to talk about meditation and spirituality without religion, which is actually the subtext of this book. And I've been trying to get into meditating more recently because it's been helping. The little bit that I have done has been helping with anxiety and depression, all this kind of stuff. Plus, this seems like it would be a good way to think about meditation and being connected spiritually with things without some sort of supernatural dogmatic thing. And I know that doesn't make sense. I've only just started reading it, but I've been listening to his podcast for the past couple of years, which is called the Waking Up Podcast. And he goes over a lot of the same things, and he talks to a lot of people about meditation and different states of the human mind and consciousness, different kind of scientific issues we have in the world, political issues. He runs the gamut with the people he talks to. So I've been wanting to read this book for a while, but I couldn't find it in certain places. I had way too many other books to read, and I figured that reading a nonfiction mixed in with fiction wouldn't have worked because it's really hard for me to switch my brain from one to the other. But I think that it's relatively short. I think it's less than 300 pages, or it's only around 200 pages, so it's a quick read. But I think that I'll probably be referencing that in the future more and more as I get deeper into meditating. He also has a meditation app that'll probably be coming out in the next 2 years. You know, if development goes well. So hopefully that'll be a thing. But that's the other book I want to read in the beginning of the year. But I really want to get through War and Peace because that's going to be a huge chunk of my time to try and get through that. Now, the next books that I've been trying to read and been failing at reading are the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I started the Fellowship of the Ring twice last year, I think. I still have a bookmark in here at sub 150 pages. If anyone's read the Lord of the Rings, I'm still in the Shire. I'm still in the Shire. I haven't even left the Shire yet because this book... if you're thinking of reading Lord of the Rings, don't go into it thinking that it's going to be just like the books, or it's going to be just like the movies, because it's not. The movies are a lot faster paced. Tolkien writes very meticulously, is very detailed, and he goes into a lot of detail about a lot of weird things. And when I tried to read it the first time, was after I'd reread The Hobbit. And The Hobbit is a really short book. It's like a children's book. This is just The Fellowship, and it's this big. It's like 500 pages, I think. Yeah, it's close to 500 pages. And that's just The Fellowship of the Ring. And I'm not like a fifth of the way through, and I'm not even out of the starting area, you know. And it's been, I think the reason it was hard to read it because of where I was at the time, and it was hard to connect to the reading. Because usually, if I can connect to it, then it'll, start speeding up and things get better. But I don't know. I really want to try and read the trilogy this year. So hopefully, once I'm done with War and Peace and Waking Up, then I can tackle these over the summer. Because I don't know how long it's going to take me to read War and Peace. Hopefully it won't take me 4 or 5 months. But knowing me, it might. Because I don't read a lot. Well, it depends. Some books I can finish in a week. Some books it takes me a couple months. So, I don't know. So maybe 2018 will finally see me reading this trilogy. Well, it's not really a trilogy. Because it's all one book. But it was split into 3. Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. Another book that I've had on my shelf for a really long time that I want to read this year, that I feel like I should have read already because I've had it for a couple years, is Dracula. Now, I like horror from this era. One of my favorite books is Frankenstein. And I've tried to read Dracula too. That's like a theme of this, is that I've tried to read these books before, but I haven't had the mental fortitude to actually finish them. But Dracula has been sitting on my shelf for a while, and I've cracked it open a couple times. I think the reason why it was hard for me to get into initially is because it's written in such a strange style that I wasn't used to. It's written as a first-hand account. It's written through journal entries and articles that compiled together and then presented to you as a novel, which I'm not really I wasn't used to. Now I'm more used to it. I've been reading and listening to a lot of Lovecraft, which a lot of Lovecraft stuff is written in the first person. It's like all first-person accounts for the most part. And there's a lot of my favorite shorts or stories from him involve journal entry sections. The man in the stone, or the name is slipping my mind, but there's one story about a guy who petrifies people with this like potion he makes. And the whole last section of the story is journal entries, where the 2 main characters stumble upon this guy, like this house, and the 2 people inside are petrified, and they find the dude's journal and they start reading through it, and it's all bolded journal entries, and I thought that was interesting. I actually wrote a short story a couple years ago that uses that same kind of format, but I had never read it before in that way. So I think having that background now of reading it and being more used to that style, that this will be an easier read for me this year. And finally, I think, I'm not sure if this was in my last book club video, because I think I said, tell me what book I should read next, but I shouldn't listen to you guys, I should just choose. But one of the last major Dostoevsky books I haven't read yet, which is Demons. I picked this up a couple years ago. At the time, I was just buying a bunch of stuff so I could have it for the future, so I wouldn't be without a book and like trying to decide. So when I got big into Dostoevsky, I bought Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov, and The Idiot, like all back to back. And then every time I would go to the bookstore, I would look and see if they have other stuff there that I hadn't had yet. So I bought Demons, which I haven't started yet. The Notes from Underground, Notes from a Dead House, and I think that's it for now. I haven't picked up The Adolescent because I haven't found it, and any of his like shorter like compilation things, I haven't picked those up either. But for me, the last big novel from him that I haven't read that I want to read is Demons, to kind of round out my Russian lit. So I might read that last according to the list I gave, but who knows. So that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books, which 7 books for me is a lot. Now, I know a lot of people who do these book hauls and reviews and things. They read a lot of books in the year. Like, there's one girl who I watch, I think in 2016 or something, she read 60 books. That's ridiculous. I don't even know 60 books that I want to read. Like, and she reads a lot of books every year. Now, I know that she reads a lot of YA, and there's a lot of that going around. There's no way in hell I would read that much YA. I didn't even read YA when I was a young adult, or when I was a teen. I didn't read it. Because that stuff isn't, A, written for me as an audience member, and it's not appealing to me. So, what can you do? Plus, a lot of the stuff that I've been reading, in general, more classics, I think. The audiobooks have been reading an audiobook. The audiobooks I've been listening to have been older stuff too, like Michael Crichton's stuff from the 70s and 80s, and something else. Oh yeah, I started listening to Moby Dick, but we can talk about that on another day. But yeah, 7 books for me is a lot. I don't even remember how many books I read last year, like physically read. I think it might have been sub 10. So, but they were shorter books, to be fair. All of these books, save Waking Up, are pretty big, especially The Lord of the Rings. That's a fucking tome. But I don't know. Hopefully I can get through these. I might do reviews of them. I probably won't. Maybe I might talk about Waking Up a little more in the future, since that's the kind of the oddball of the group. I might give my thoughts on Lord of the Rings, because a couple of my friends have been asking me have been curious about what my take on Lord of the Rings will be, since I'm a really big fan of the films, and I haven't read the books and all that kind of stuff, just to see if my opinion will change based on reading it. But so yeah, that's my reading list for 2018 so far. I know that in the next 11 months, I'll probably pick up something random and read it quickly, or even listen to a couple audiobooks, which audiobooks, I don't consider that reading. I know that's obvious, but I've listened to maybe 4 audiobooks in the past 2 months, and I don't know if I add them on to a list of things that I've quote unquote read or completed, because it's very passive. But I don't know. It's gray area for me. But yeah, I'll be back. I'll probably do a video about the books that I did read last year. So who knows?